All right, everyone. Like I mentioned in the intro, it's a little bit different today, boys. Alan's sitting in my seat, keeping it warm for me. So, unfortunately, I'm stuck at home in my nice little COVID quarantine room right now, and you boys get to enjoy the studio today. So, Alan, thanks for pulling the slack for us here, man, and stopping in and helping us record an episode today.
Yeah, no problem. It's a lot nicer digs you guys have here not going on than the last time I was here.
Yeah. So, a lot of people didn't see that, but I think for the first what 10, 15 episodes. I don't remember when we actually started going live with these videos, or not live, but filming these. And yeah, so we had exactly that. We had a conference room that was super echoey, and Alan was in there. I think he'd been, like you just mentioned before we started recording, I think Alan was our second true, like first person that we recorded outside of the conversation that you and I had, and then obviously with Todd. Alan was our first true guest, and
Hmm.
we aired his episode was the third. He was right after I think Justin Jones and American
Hmm.
Hero Hunt was the second episode, and but yeah, we had moving blankets on the table to kind of help deaden the sound. They're actually in my garage still, and then we would throw up that blanket to kind of make a barrier. To keep some of the echo down because that room sucked.
Yeah, it's a
So
big room too.
much better digs today for sure. So yeah, like I said, man, thanks again for coming in. I know this isn't the most ideal situation. I'm still fighting. I'm about day 4 into my COVID quarantine, so I get to be on this side today. But I know the last time we talked, you were going or getting ready to go to Colorado. I don't think, well, I think the season was over. We were kind of talking about your past trip,
Hmm.
and then we also talked about like what you have coming with this season right now that we just finished. So if you can, man, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your whitetail stuff, maybe even some of your turkey because that was before you even got into the turkey season last year. So
Yeah.
kind of starting with spring of 22, kind of talking about your season so far, and then we'll kind of get into your most recent trip to Colorado for that third rifle, right? The third rifle late season.
Yeah, third rifle. Yep. Yep. Same tag I hunted last year. But this year I had a partner tag along with me for the trip. But no, last time I was in the studio, that was January of 22. So yeah, we I was tagged out and everything. Shot a nice mule deer out there last year. Shot a nice little buck here in Ohio. But since then, tagged out turkey season again. Tagged out and shot a nice. Not a nice one, but shot a Jake in Ohio on the very last day of the season, which was a cool little trip. I had took a buddy with me. Had never been turkey hunting before, and we actually doubled up on turkeys. He was excited about it. I was excited. So to shoot two Jakes, it was cool. And then I always take a trip up to Michigan to turkey hunt. And went up there. Same deal. I had a buddy that had never hunted turkeys before, and we actually doubled on Jakes up there also. And so yeah, I mean, had a couple freezer full of birds and not nothing crazy. It's no big long beards or anything like that. But it was a blast. Especially being able to take out two guys that were friends of mine that had never hunted turkeys before, and they both were able to go out and get it done. So it was cool. And Dublin's always cool too, especially up in Michigan. We were behind a decoy on our hands and knees, standing behind a decoy, and we had four Jakes lined up in front of us. And I'm like, all right, you shoot the one on the left, I'll shoot the one on the right, and both at the same time, just popping up and blasting away.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was. I love turkey hunting. It's a blast.
And you're sitting right next to the man. He knows it was coming. He
Yeah,
knows it
Yeah.
was coming. But you're sitting right next to the man. And of course, having you on right after Waddell was kind of cool too because Waddell obviously was a big turkey hunter or is a big turkey hunter, and that man sitting right there to your right, we're definitely getting him to hear some birds gobbling this year. I don't necessarily even care if Ben shoots one. I think Ben just needs to experience
oh yeah,
hearing a bird firing off in the roost before he can see it because he acts like I know he's going to be open to it. I know he will, but he's acting like he's like, turkey hunting might not be for me.
one
Just
time.
just because I've went in the past, I think it's just I had a bad experience the first time I went. I was little. I think we even talked about it last time we were on. It was like I think I was like 12 or 11, And the guy that he took me, he's like, you cannot move. Sit still the entire time. You can't move. We were right out in the open, and we didn't see anything. We were out there all day. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like,
I mean, you got to be proactive a little bit. I mean, I get that. Like, yeah, you can do that, but if they're not gobbling, then you got to go find them. And so that's what we did. And
Yep.
it's different up. And when the strategy we hunt up in Michigan, whenever time I've ever went up there, you drive around and spot them. It's like spot and stock basically.
oh, that's cool.
And then because they're all over the place in Michigan. It's unreal how many turkeys are up there. There's not really many turkeys up there. Don't go up there and hunt. But you just drive around and find them.
What is the bag limit up there?
It's one.
Is it one up there too? Okay.
Yeah, it's one. They have different zones. They have different zones and different tags. Like it's not the same as like, here in Ohio where you can shoot one for the whole state. I know they have different zones and you have to draw. Certain tags are only good for public land and certain tags are only good for private land. So there's a little bit more into it than that, but I believe it's only one up there. So luckily for us, they changed that this year for Ohio, so that way you can only shoot one.
Like I've told you, honestly, we didn't hunt last year before we had the conversation, but I know I've told you the story, but hunting with Curtis last year from the archery counter, we, like you said, we kind of did that spot and stock. You could hear them, but they were on private, but you were on hunting public ground, and it was really hard to get on them. And then we finally got on one, and this season, I feel like a lot of people had a hard time with them this year in our state, at least. A lot of experienced turkey hunters that know, I mean, like yourself, I mean, you've you've taken big birds.
Yeah.
And then this year you've took a Jake on the very last day.
Right.
And, even Kurt I think his bird was pushing it's like a month-long season, and his bird was pushing the last few days there too. And he's taken many birds. And so, yeah, it was a challenge this year for sure. But, yeah, getting on that guy and seeing him at like 300 yards through the binos, sun shining down. I mean, you can close your eyes and go right back to those moments where you're taking, especially with those birds and chasing them. And, man, I tell you what, I like whitetails, but, man, there's something special to go chase birds for sure. Like Waddell, Ben, Waddell was just talking to us the other day, but to go in there and to like manipulate and attack and be proactive, there's luck, but there's not passive luck like there would be when you're whitetail hunting and you're just trying to sit still in a stand for 8 hours a day. You can actually go out and create your luck a little bit, if you can at least find them. It's a blast, man.
Yeah, and another thing I really like about turkey hunting also, for me, like if I'm deer hunting, I don't just shoot any buck that walks by. You're going to be a little bit, picky if as long as you're managing,
Sure.
and you don't want to shoot something little. But if you get a bird gobbling, it's going to be something that you can shoot. It's not like you're looking at it like, is that 8, 10, 12 point, whatever. He comes in and he's got a full beard and a full fan, then that's game on. That's it. It's not, you're not worried about, you're not counting points, you're not counting inches and nothing like that. It's just the interaction and everything's fun, and you could shoot jakes. And, like I said, I shot a jake. I probably wouldn't shoot a jake on opening day,
Sure.
just for population. But, on the last day of the season, I'm going to go ahead and take one. But yeah, so that's what's nicer about it too. Like it's, when you're whitetail hunting, you're sitting in a stand and you're like, you wait for that buck to show up and he's too little and you're like, dang it. So that's one good thing about turkeys.
The spot and stock thing sounds fun, like seeing them from the road and trying to sneak in on them, and that sounds like it would be a good time.
Yeah, it is. It's different. It's a different type of. It's different type of hunting for sure. For sure.
Oh yeah. We definitely need to make some time together. I know everyone wants to. We have so many relationships and so many connections throughout. What we do and what we work. With the pro staff guys like yourself, as well as some of our own friends and colleagues that we have at the store. Like everyone wants to take everybody hunting, but we can only pick so many times and we only have so many days. But we'll definitely need to get together for sure, because Alan is one of the few people that we have on the pro staff team too that actually expands. I mean, Taylor does as well, but kind of expands out of Ohio to go chase those birds. And yeah, we need to make time for it. Michigan's really not that far of a drive, so take a long weekend and burn a Friday and hunt a Saturday, Sunday up there and see what your luck is. And it's it'll be a fun time. So
Yeah, Michigan. I mean, if you got a spot, like last year, I had a buddy that was up there, and he had his aunt and uncle had a private property, and he's like, it's loaded with birds, but I've just never hunted them before. And I was like, all right, I'm coming up, and I left the house at like 2:30 in the morning and drove straight up there, and we were walking in the woods at daylight. But that didn't end up working out in that specific spot because the birds happened to be roosted 50 yards from where we were at, and I didn't know because I'd never been there before, and we blew them right off the roost. But yeah, Michigan's not far, man. It's
Yeah.
and it's $150 for a tag up there with your license and your tag. It's $150. It's not bad. So, wouldn't make it happen.
Taylor and I were talking the other day. He was saying they are going to Indiana
Hmm.
this year to do birds, and then they're going to try to see whatever leasing property too. So that's the other thing too. Then like going to these out of state hunts too, or even Allen for that matter, going to these out of state hunts. Let's say you do get permission on private property in Indiana or Michigan or Kentucky or Pennsylvania, whatever have you, and maybe there's a possibility that you can utilize that to hunt whitetails too in the fall. So it's like trying these different things and trying these different connections out there and seeing what you can come across. It really opens up your season a lot more to be able to hunt out of state and to try to utilize some of those easy weekend trips to grab another bird or grab another buck.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially if you shoot something opening weekend, anywhere. Shoot something opening weekend or shoot something in October. Travel down to Kentucky and shoot a buck down there. Or same way, if you shoot something opening weekend in April here, you can go to Kentucky or Pennsylvania or wherever. Yeah, it's
Yep.
nice. It's nice to have options for sure.
Oh, for sure, for sure. So that kind of segues us a little bit. I know you didn't really have much going on this summertime, besides riding your bike, being
Yep.
Mr. Harley man,
Yep.
and being sports dad.
Yeah. Super
I
busy.
love being sports. Yeah, you didn't have much time, it looked like, to hunt this year. You're too busy being football dad.
Yeah. Yeah. This fall was a little bit different. My son was in ninth grade now, and so he's playing football well, he actually ended up starting for JV, but then he's also dressing for varsity. So we were busy for every day. My daughter is cheering for varsity football, so we were, Friday nights football games, Saturday mornings JV football games, clear into late October. So it's a busy time having so many kids and so many sports, and plus the other little one is playing on Sunday mornings, and so yeah, so we're
Yep.
busy all the time. But
We won't
yeah,
talk about that Sheridan beatdown that they put on us. Then we're not going to talk about that Watkins Sheridan beatdown. We
yeah,
keep that one under.
yep, that was a good one. That was a good one. I was there
So
for
you
that.
even with that said though, I know you had texted me before. You even with all that busyness, you still had the opportunity to shoot at least a couple deer. I know we had that group text message for the pro staff members. I know you sent a couple pictures, a couple videos over some decent bucks that you passed up on this year. Your standards are a little bit higher than Ben and I. So what were you looking for this year?
Well, coming into the whitetail season this year, of course, I run some cameras just like everybody else does, and with some development and stuff going on around where I'm hunting at, I didn't have many pictures of big bucks, and so nothing that was really exciting me. That doesn't mean I'm not going to hunt, and doesn't mean that something can't show up that you don't know it's there. But so my time in the stand was just, I wasn't excited to get out there, but I still went a few different times. I had one hunt in particular. I was the one Jordan's talking about. I had probably the most vocal sit in the whitetail stand I've ever had in my life. I mean, I had 6 bucks grunting and chasing this one doe all running around me. Unfortunate for me, the biggest buck was probably 120 inch, 9 point, 10 point, and I was just not something I'm looking for, not something I'm gonna shoot. But it was cool as heck to watch him run those deer around and run her around, and then he goes and he's 100 yards from my stands making a rub, and that was pretty cool to watch and hear. And that's the video that Jordan's talking about. I sent him, and it was cool. I mean, it was a cool video to post and to see, and
Oh yeah,
but it's just not, I like something a little bit bigger, so I got a
sure,
little bit
sure.
higher standards.
Well, how long have you been deer hunting though?
I've
Long
been
time.
deer hunting since I was 9 years old, so getting up there. I'll be 38 this year, so going on 30 years.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not a
Just a little bit longer than us, then.
Yeah. I've shot little bucks. You know, there's guys that
Yeah.
call me a trophy hunter or whatnot, but if it excites you, it excites you. You know, just shoot. Just like I said with the turkeys. You know, I wouldn't normally shoot at Jake, but at the same time, if I'm with my buddy, it's never shot one before, and if you're turkey hunting and you double on a turkey, like that's a big deal. Like to be able to double, and if we can double on Jake's, I'd double on a Jake. That's cool. It's an awesome experience.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. It's a double.
Yeah.
I mean, a double's a double. Period.
Yep. And so that's why I was, I wouldn't normally if I'm not going to shoot a Jake on the first day of season, but if I can double with a buddy of mine, then yeah, we're going to do that. That's cool. But yeah, just I've got nice deer on the wall, and I've shot deer personally that were, that I've gotten over top and found them, and I thought probably shouldn't have done that, but I got excited. I hadn't seen a buck in a month and a half or something, and the arrow flies, and next thing you know, you're standing over top of a 130-inch deer, and it's just like, well, it's tag still goes on it, and it still goes on the wall.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
But yeah,
that's how Ben got his this year.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. It was a doe, honestly.
Really?
I got all excited. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. So go ahead, tell him that. I don't know if you heard that story, but tell him that story.
Well, it was the weekend of gun season.
Mm-hmm.
I went down with a buddy that works here. It was pouring down rain. The wind was blowing. We didn't think we were going to see anything, so we hiked in about a mile, and I think we were standing there for about a minute, and deer started coming out of the woods, and he's like, "Hey, doe behind you," and his head was up. I mean, he was just outside of the trees, and there was CRP in front of him, and it was raining, and I saw it, and I'm like, oh, okay, doe. So I just went right to the vitals and shot, and we were walking up there, and he goes, "Hey, just so you know, we're known for spike bucks out here, so don't be disappointed if it's a spiker." I'm like, dude, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
At this point, I just want something. So my first deer ever, walked up on it as a spike. It was like a 6-inch spike. So I was kind of a little disappointed, but at the same time, I was super happy to get one.
I mean, technically, it's not a buck, right? It depends on how tall.
I still had to check it in as a buck because it was over 3 inches or whatever.
Inch. Yeah. But at the same time, you'll never forget that.
Sure.
That's going to be your story forever. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can tell you the first time I ever shot a deer, the exact story of it, and I can tell you the first time I ever shot a buck, the exact story of it, like to a T. And that's 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's cool.
My mom always jokes with me too, because it's like she's like, you have a horrible memory, you can't remember anything in your childhood, and I'm like, there's like bits and pieces, right? Like you can close your eyes and go back to a certain day, and you can almost feel yourself being in that situation. Ben's gonna have that same situation with that, probably the same way that you ever shot with a squirrel or a rabbit, or name your game animal.
Yeah.
I was 15 years old and I shot my first doe, and I can close my eyes, tell you who I was with, where I was at, what the day was, how many clouds are in the sky. Yep. But I couldn't tell you the day before or the day after. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And the longer you hunt, and the more, I'm going to say, trophies that you take, you're going to remember. You might not remember every single doe you shoot, but you're going to remember all the bucks that you shoot. That you're going to remember, I got in the stand an hour and a half late. I shouldn't have done that. I fell this way. I fell halfway down the tree trying to climb on my tree. You're going to remember all of those things for every single time. Even, I don't remember every doe I've ever killed, but I remember my very first doe I killed. But I remember every single buck I've killed also. And so, but yeah, and then those are the types of memories you can't make. Like, that's the big thing for hunting for me. I mean, you just tell all those stories all over again. And then when you get your mounts and you mount them on the wall, then you can look at them every day, and you're like, yep, I remember that. I remember that day.
Here pretty soon he'll be hanging up back here.
There you go.
I'm getting him Euro mounted, so just to have it,
Yeah, I'll put him front and center. But what are you talking about? He's gonna be right there, smack on the table.
Yeah, get you a little skull mount sitting right here on the table.
Well, Jordan's got one.
No, but that's awesome. That'd be good. Yeah,
you're getting yours,
say that. So White Bone Creations, shout out Ryan Olson. I actually sent mine to California to have it to have it done by him. He was nice enough to take it in, and of course I shipped it, through work and got it over there to him. So yeah, hopefully that comes back in soon too. But it's funny because as I don't poke fun at Ben, but like Waddell was telling us last week as well, like you make fun of the guys that you care about, and so I wanted him to tell that story. But mine's really not that much different either. Where my first buck was that doe management hunt that we had with Noah and Ethan Feathernet through Feathernet outdoors, and you get down on the ground, and you're like, oh, he's got little nubs on his head. All right, well,
Mm,
this turned interesting. Like he's got a sack on him. Okay, cool. Let's.
yep. I,
Unlike Ben though, mine didn't count towards my total, so
yeah.
I'm still good. But let's be honest, I'm ready for turkeys, man. This weather sucks, and I'm ready for some cold spring mornings and some turkeys
When
firing
I
off.
first started hunting, like I said, I was probably 9 or 10, and I didn't archery hunt for a really long time. And all my dad has ever done is shotgun hunted. So we did it old school way. We never sat. We're always driving, and so we're pushing fields all from day one to day 7. We're pushing fields and pushing fence lines and everything. And this is, I think, this particular year, so I had never shot a buck before. I might not have ever shot a deer, actually. Anyway, so we're waiting on a couple guys to come out of this woods, drive this woods, and we're standing in this big, huge CRP field. And I'm standing there. My dad's just with me. He'd already shot his deer, so he don't even have a gun. So at the time, I'm carrying his 12 gauge because I normally had carried just a single shot 20, little Harrison or H&H, H&R, H&H. And we're standing there and talking, shooting shit, whatever. And next thing you know, this giant buck jumps up 30, 40 yards from me. And my dad don't see it. But this deer had been laying down in the CRP field right by us. I mean, giant buck, real nice, pretty 10-point. Takes off running, and I was just standing there looking at it. And I said, "Hey, Dad, there's a big buck taking off running." And he goes, "What are you doing? Shoot at it." And at this point, it's 150 yards away. So what do? I unload on this thing at 10 years old with a 12 gauge shotgun. Or my dad's 12 gauge Mossberg. This is before we had plugs in the gun, so all 6 shots went at this deer. I had no chance of hitting it. But that's your funny story. He'll make fun of me till this day about that. Or I could have dropped that deer if that deer jumped up in front of me now. He wouldn't have, it didn't go 20, but now he was just running away. And all I did was turn around and say, "Hey, there goes the deer." And Dad says, "You gotta hurry up, shoot at it." But,
It makes you appreciate. It's kind of like how all the '90s kid things too, but like it makes you appreciate like what kids today can shoot with because now you can give them a 450 Bushmaster and an AR or 350 Legend and an AR,
yeah.
and things are so much lighter and so much easier, and it wasn't like 15, 20 years ago when you had to lug around a full size 12 gauge shotgun as a 10-year-old kid. Like you just had to.
Yeah.
Now it's like so much easier for kids to get into it. The barrier to entry, if you will, is a lot smaller.
Yeah, they got a rifle that'll shoot 200, 250 if they get
Yeah.
a nice one and it's sitting on a tripod.
Yeah, sitting on that bog pod and the
Yep.
heated blind.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome. Well, so you hadn't filled your Ohio tag yet,
No,
correct?
no, it's still in my pocket right as of right now, and that's probably where it'll stay, honestly. But I'm fine with that because I shot a heck of a nice deer in Colorado, so I was pretty happy about that.
All right, everyone, we need to take a quick break from the conversation with Alan to thank our sponsor, Toby Burdett, with Burdett Taxidermy and Legends Big Game Recovery. As we roll along with this new year, hunting seasons are slowly winding down, and maybe our conversation today has you daydreaming about getting your harvest mounted. If you're in Ohio or the surrounding states and want to get some of those memories preserved, give him a call at 740-281-6435. Thanks, everyone. Good luck with the remainder of your season. Now let's get back into the conversation.
When we talked to you last time, you had a really nice deer, mule deer from Colorado, and then obviously this year you kind of stepped your game up a little bit, and you had even a nicer deer this year. If you could, let's go ahead and talk about that trip. I know you went with your dad, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And if you want, we made a funny little Instagram reel on our Vance Outdoors page. You can head over there and check it out. But you can see Alan and some of the video footage that you got with your your binos and your spine scope, as well as some of the stuff that your dad took of you when you recovered. But let's go ahead and get into that trip to Colorado, and then just kind of what all transpired while you guys were there.
Yeah, so that the Colorado tag that we hunt, same tag I hunted last year. It's a third rifle season tag, and it's an awesome tag to have for being out there. The downfall to that is being here. So the tag is good for November 10th or 11th through the 18th or 19th. So that takes away. I mean, that's the prime of the rut for Ohio. So that's what I say. Like, luckily last year I was able to shoot my deer on the 31st, October 31st. So I was able to fill my tag. But I've always thought that the best times to hunt are November 5th through the 15th here. And so with having that Colorado tag, you're taking away all your prime times to hunt for here. But that's a really awesome tag to have out there. So yeah, this year I wanted to go back out there, and after I shot my buck out there last year, I had talked to my dad into going. My dad's 63. I've been hunting with him forever and ever and ever, and all he's ever done as far as hunting goes is squirrels and rabbits and shotgun hunting here. He's not an archery hunter. Mm-hmm. He's got a crossbow, but I don't think he even owns a tree stand. So if he goes out, it's just standing in the fence line and hoping to get lucky. And so I talked to him. I said, you ought to come back out. We'll hunt this Colorado tag. I said, it's an area I've been to. I think I can help you out and get you a nice deer. Because we had went to the first time I'd ever hunted out west. We hunted in Idaho. Me and my dad both went out there. It was the first time I'd ever even went out west. We bought our tags. We went into the mountain with a mule deer tag, an elk tag, a bear tag, and a wolf tag. And he actually got lucky enough to shoot a bear in that trip, but we didn't even see a deer with horns and didn't see an elk or anything. And so I said, put in on this tag with me and let's go back out there. I said, I think you can do it. I think I'm pretty confident out there. So yeah, drug him out there with me. We drove out and we put in for our tag in March 22, drew the tag, then started playing in, so it's a 24 hour drive to get out there, and was able to talk to him into going out there with me. And of course, like I said, this is my dad, and he's the one that taught me he taught me how to hunt. Mm-hmm. And now it's sort of tables turned here, where now he's got to kind of listen to me, which is, I'm pretty stubborn, and he's even more stubborn. So it's a little bit of a battle out there, and at the same time, it's completely different out west. When you go your approach on things, mm-hmm. And so it's hard to it was hard to get him to understand some of that stuff, and to understand that you got to stop and look and look and look and look. So, but luckily enough, we were able to go out there, and he shot a deer on the second day of the season. And I shot a real nice deer on the last day of the season. But I was happy for him. And, I told him, I was like, we're going out there, we're going to go out west and hunt. And it wasn't a backcountry hunt. We had a hotel, so we're day hunting every day. We stayed in a hotel every night. We knew we knew we were going to have weather. When we was on the way out there, we already had cold temps showing up, which was great for the hunt, because it brings all the deer off the mountain. Once the temperature drops and snow comes, all those bucks start coming down. And because there's some spots that you just can't reach out there where we're hunting. There's peaks out to 14,000 feet. And so we got out there. We ended up leaving a day early. Was able to get off work, so we hopped in the truck. I said, let's go ahead and go out there. We'll get out there a day early. We get out there on Thursday afternoon, I think. So we had the afternoon to scout around. Got in the hotel. So Friday morning we're up early, and we're cruising around in the truck, hitting all the spots. And first light Friday morning, I got a nice buck spotted. I posted some pictures of it. He's way up on a mountain, and my dad's like, I can't believe they're right there. And this is a long ways away, but it's hard to when you're out there to differentiate, because where we're hunting at, it's not just this big giant public land area. There's pieces and parts, and there's boundary lines everywhere. And we spotted this real nice buck right off the road, chasing these deer up this hill. And I had super awesome video of it, posted on my Instagram and everything. And so we're driving down the road, and you can spot a lot of country from the road. So we're in the road, spotting from the road, and so I got a spotting scope. My dad's got his binoculars, and he's not a binoculars guy. He don't hunt, he just hunts with whatever he sees here, and you don't need binoculars in Ohio. And so he's in his binoculars, and he says, "Hey, Alan, come over here. I think I see something way up at the top of this mountain." And I'm like, "What do you see? If you can't see it if you're looking at deer, and we're looking at 1.5 miles, probably 2.5 miles away." And so I grabbed my spotter and throw it up, and sure enough, he spotted a herd of elk, probably 80 elks laying down on top of this mountain.
Wow.
So now he's all excited. He's super excited. And we didn't have elk tags at the time. But lucky enough for us, the unit we were hunting in was an over-the-counter unit. So you could just go and buy your elk tag. So we spot these elk. And he's dead set. I'm going to go hunt this elk. We're going to hunt these elk. And I was like, and I'm looking at it. And out there at this time of the year for elk in Colorado, the elk will herd up, but your big bulls won't be with that herd. So in this herd, there's one bull that's in there, and he's pretty big, but whole half of his right side was completely busted off. Mm-hmm. All it had was, he probably only had a foot sticking out. He had his two fronts and then maybe another 6 inches on top of that, and that was it. And he was the biggest one, and there might have been a couple. I know there was a few spikes in that herd, and then maybe 1 or 2 raghorns. So I told Dad, I said, I don't think I'm going to get an elk tag. I said, if we'll go back to town, you get an elk tag, and I want you to shoot one. And he goes, well, I don't care what I shoot. And I said, well, I wanted him to get something. That was the goal of this hunt, was for him to have a good time and shoot something. And I said, you have the first choice on everything. I'm going to be picky, and you have the first choice, because he's getting up there a little bit in age, so he might not ever make that trip again. So I wanted to make sure it was something good for him.
Yep.
And so we ended up going back up on the mountain. We had a side by side I had borrowed from my buddy, and so we go all the way up this mountain, and it was a snow covered road, had a foot of snow on it. Nobody had been up there. We get close to these elk, and we spot it. We figure out a plan. We're gonna go. All right, we're gonna shoot these elk. This is probably 1:00 in the afternoon. So I'm like, all right, well, when we get back to town tonight, we'll go in there and we'll buy our elk tags. So this is still Friday afternoon, and season's not open yet. Season opens on Saturday, and so we go to another spot where we had seen that big buck in the morning that was chasing the does up the hill, and so we go and sit in this spot, and we're going to scout for the afternoon or for that evening, and sure enough, we're sitting there, and the next thing you know, I'm looking in my binoculars, and I'm like, what is that? What is that line? I see one cow, a cow elk, all by herself, way out in this field, and I'm like, why is there just one cow? That's weird. Why it didn't make any sense that there'd be one cow in this hayfield. And the next thing you know, this brown line just starts rolling over this hill, and there was another herd of elk, probably 120, 130 herd of elk. And I'm like, Dad, you wouldn't believe this. And he's, what? And now this place where we were at was a lot easier to get to. It wasn't a 2.5 mile hike up to the top of a mountain. This was low country. This was maybe a 3/4 mile hike to get to. And I'm like,
wow.
But they were on private land.
Oh.
But they were close enough where it was, you don't know what's going to happen. A coyote might run out there and chase them over to us, but they were pretty close. So now our plan became, okay, now we're going to go after these elk. We're going to hope that they're close by. Now, mind you, we don't have our elk tags yet. We have deer tags in our pockets. But, how does a couple guys from Ohio turn down an opportunity to shoot an elk?
Sure. Yeah.
So, and that was what my dad was all about. He was all about these elk. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's sit this hillside tonight. We'll see what we do and or what happens. And we'll come back here in the morning. We'll shoot those elk. We'll go back to town and buy our elk tags. So yeah, that's the final day of our scouting day, and we get back to town and go to the grocery store, and I say, I need to buy an elk tag, and she says, well, we don't sell elk tags, and I said, well, what do you mean? You're the only, it's in the town, it's the only grocery store in the town, and I said, she goes, the only place you can buy elk tags are over at Napa, and I'm pretty sure they're closed, and sure enough, They were closed, and so no elk tags for us. So we're like, well, crap, that's not going to work out. And so the next morning, it actually ended up working out great because we never seen the elk again. So it saved us $700 a piece, and it actually ended up working out well for that. But
Kind of refocused you back into
well, it refocused me.
Sure.
It did not refocus my dad because that was all he had on his mind was, we're going to go check on this. Let's go see if we can find those elk. I said, Dad, look, we got deer tags. Okay. Let's hunt deer. If we want to go, if we run across some elk, we find a herd or something, they're not going to go anywhere. We'll just go find it. We'll go get our tags and we'll go do it again. And so opening day, Saturday, I busted his butt. We probably hiked 12 miles opening day. And we seen deer, we seen a little buck first hike in the morning, seen a little buck, had him at like 250 yards. I wasn't going to shoot him. Dad didn't want to shoot him. And we went to so we hunted all morning, seen a bunch of does, no bucks, nothing at all. In the afternoon, we hiked way back in this spot, and it was pretty flat. It wasn't a real steep hike. Hiked way back in this spot where I had seen a bunch of deer last year, big bucks, and so we get way back in the back, and it's getting dark, and I had this buck that I had spotted. He's pretty narrow, really tall, and I was trying to get my dad to shoot him, and the problem was so my dad, like I said, he's not a rifle hunter, he's a shotgun hunter, and we had went to the range I think once or twice this off season. And he was shooting my 6.5 Creedmoor, and I had my 7mm, and he shot my 7mm one time. And I told him, I said, look, if we get in a situation where we're going to shoot one deer, you're going to shoot with my 7mm. And he goes, well, why? I said, because it's the better round. It's going to has more knockdown. He goes, well, I haven't practiced with it. And I said, it's a rifle, it's dead on, just shoot it and it'll be done with it. And he goes, well, I don't know if I want to do that. And I said, okay, fine. If you're going to shoot a deer, you can't shoot anything over 400 yards with that 6.5. That's it, because it's not powerful enough. Let's just stick it to that. Well, this buck that I had on the end of opening day was at 600, and he wouldn't shoot it. And I'm like, just shoot it. Come on, shoot it. It was a nice deer. Didn't want to shoot it. And I said, okay. So that's the end of our opening day. We're hiking back, and at the time, like I said, we did 12 miles total that day, and so the afternoon or the evening hunt was a 6-mile round trip. So we're hiking back, and it's dark, and we're hiking back to the truck, and my dad says, we need to be closer to the truck. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, we need to be closer to the truck when it gets dark. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, because I'm worn out. I said, well, you think you wouldn't be worn out if it was daylight?
Yeah. Just think if you'd shot a deer and you're packing one
I
out.
was gonna
Holy
say,
cow.
Imagine if you had that buck on his back.
Yeah, and but he's like, God, I want to be closer to the truck when it's dark. And I said, you're going to be tired either way. And so we get back to the truck, and he's huffing and puffing, and I give it to him. He did great, and he's huffing and puffing. He goes, how far was that? And I pull up Onyx on my phone, and I said, that was about 6 miles. And he goes, okay, I know my limit. He said 6 miles was his limit. And I said, well, Dad, that was pretty flat. We didn't have a whole lot of elevation. And I said, what do you think your limit is going to be when we got some elevation we're climbing? He goes, well, that's soon to be found out. And so he was tired. And I'll tell you, 12 miles, that's a lot of hiking.
Yeah.
That's a long ways to go. And I was tired too, but he was beat. And so we come out, next morning, we're hunting, and now it's Sunday morning, and we're driving down the road, and same hill that we had seen that buck pushing those does up the morning before. There's another buck in there pushing some does around, 2 bucks actually. And he goes, let's go, and they're headed towards the public land. And so we decide to hike up in there, and so we hike up in there, and we're right on the edge of the, looking at Onyx, and Onyx is a huge tool. If you guys don't use it, especially when you're hunting out west. You have to have it. And so we're staring at, because out west, they don't have fence lines. It's not like here where it's, every time you cross a fence, somebody else owns it. Out there, it's just, It's just what it is. There's a imaginary line through the middle of the sagebrush, and that's your property line. And it doesn't tell you that it's there. But the only way you know is if you're looking at onX. So we're standing on the edge of this fence row, and we're on public land, and I'm watching these deer push this doe around. And there was 2 bucks in there, and there's 5 or 6 does that were in there, and they're pushing these does around. And so this is Saturday or Sunday morning, and I'm like, we can't shoot this deer. He's just on the edge. He needs to come up this hill that we're on in order to be on public land. And so we're just watching this doe, watching what he does, or watching this buck, pushing these does around. Then they bed down, and my dad goes, "Hey, how far is it to the edge of the private?" So I pull out my onX and line distance it, and it's 127 yards. And he goes, "Well, how far is it to the deer?" And I range him. It's at 93 yards. And he goes, "So that deer's on public land." I said, "Yeah, by 30 yards."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "So I could shoot it?" And I said, "You could if you wanted to, but you better make sure he doesn't go anywhere." And
You better not miss.
yeah. And so he goes, "Well, I think I could shoot that deer." And I said, "Look, if you want to shoot that deer, you go right ahead and shoot that deer." And he wasn't big. I didn't want him to shoot the deer. And I said, "You go ahead and shoot the deer." I said, "I'm going to stay right here." I said, "Sneak around there, get you a nice broadside shot on the deer." And so I pulled up my spotter and had my digiscoping app on my phone, and I was able to video it. And so he snuck around there, and I just videoed the whole entire thing. And he shot the deer right in his bed and nailed the shot. And he was shooting that 6.5 Creedmoor, and the deer got up. I mean, I posted the video on Facebook or on Instagram and everything. It's a cool video. He nails the shot, but the deer still stood up. And you hear me yelling in the video to shoot him again because I don't want this deer to go anywhere, because then we have to worry about property lines and everything. Mm-hmm. And he, unbeknownst to me, he didn't hear me yell to shoot again. But I'm always thinking, if the deer's still standing, I'm still shooting. And this deer's standing, and he's not shooting. And I almost grabbed my gun to shoot the deer again because I didn't want it to go anywhere. And luckily, though, you'll see in the video, the deer took about 3 or 4 steps, and then he did the old death wobble, and down he went. And so we was able to, Dad just shot his first mule deer, and it was pretty cool because we were about 3/4 mile from the truck, all downhill. But when I tell the story about, opening day, hiking 12 miles, and Dad being beat, he shot the very first deer he seen the next day.
Yeah.
And he didn't leave the truck for 3 days after that. He stayed at the truck, and which was, I was still able to enjoy the hunt with my dad the whole entire time. Mm-hmm. But it was kind of a little bit off my shoulders because I didn't have to worry about him. I didn't have to,
Sure.
I was able to go wherever I wanted to go and do what I wanted to do without making sure that he was going to be okay with it or he was going to make it back. And I'm not saying that he can't do that stuff, but it is my dad, and I'm still worried about him.
Sure.
Yeah.
And but he was super happy with it. He was perfectly happy shooting that deer. It was kind of a cool looking deer because it was a 3-point. So on one side he had a fork on the back and then a single point on the front, and on the opposite side he had a fork on the front and a single point on the back.
Oh yeah.
So it was kind of a cool deer, and like I said, he was perfectly happy with it. He didn't need to shoot some giant. And he made a great shot on it. We didn't have any meat ruined. We had plenty of meat out of that deer, and great memories. And I was able to get everything on video, which was super cool. And he was able to send it to all of his buddies and post on his Facebook, so he was happy.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
But yeah, so now Dad's tagged out, and so now now we're gonna do. Now I don't have to answer any questions. It was just, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it that way. So it was, like I said, it was nice. It was a nice change of pace to where I could be like, no, this is what we're going to do. I have to, no second thoughts. I mean, a little less on the second thoughts. Mm-hmm. So he's still opinionated pretty good. But so now we're Sunday night. We get to buck back to the truck or back to the hotel and put it in the Yetis, get it all, run to the grocery store, get some dry ice, and it's cool. It's taken care of. So Sunday night now, and we drove up into this spot that I didn't spend a whole lot of time in last year, and we're way at the top of this mountain, and it overlooks these 2 giant canyons, And so I'm on one side looking over this
He
one
says
canyon,
he says giant. He says giant.
giant canyons.
Fucking giant.
Yeah.
Like,
And so, no, I mean, there's a giant canyon. You can't,
yeah,
pictures don't do it justice. I mean, it's
dude.
big canyons.
Yeah.
And Dad's looking over one side, I'm looking over the other, and we're about 45 minutes till dark. And he comes walking up, and I'm in the spotter, and he's just got his binoculars. And he says, "Hey, I need you to come over here. I think I see it. I think I see a deer." And I said, "Okay." So I'd grab a spotter and go on the other side of the mountain to the canyon he was overlooking. And, within 10 seconds, I'm like, yes, that is a big buck. Yes, we're going after that deer right now, getting the side by side. And so I'm looking at this deer, and he's coming out of this big timber patch into the bottom of this canyon, and it's right on the edge of that private public area. And now, mind you, where this canyon's at, we're on public land, so there's people everywhere. And all this road follows the whole top of this canyon, and there's trucks everywhere parked doing the same exact thing we're doing. And so I'm like, we got to go right now, because that deer, somebody's going to see that deer, and they're going to go after him. So we hop into side by side, and I'm flying down this mountain to try to get around to where I can make a play on this deer. And I'm flying down the mountain. I pull off in this one spot just to jump out and check and make sure he's still there. And he's still coming up, just working his way out of this timber patch into this wide open sagebrush. And I see this other side by side flying across the mountain to where I'm trying to get to, and I'm thinking, crap. He sees this deer. He's gonna shoot this deer. He's gonna shoot this deer. So I pull over, and I said, "I'm going after him right here, Dad." And he goes, right here? And I said, "Yeah, I'm just going to straight off the mountain. I'm going to go after him." So I grab my gun, and that's it. No pack, no jacket, no nothing, and barrel down this mountain. I'm literally running down this mountain to get to this deer. And I'm running out of daylight. It's half an hour before daylight. And so I finally get down there, and as I get down to the bottom, I pull up my binoculars, and I can see him coming right over top of this hill. And he's at 350 on the private. I can't shoot. And so all I can do is just sit there and watch him. And I see his antler tips across the top of this little rise in the sagebrush, and he was pushing these does around. And I'm just sitting there waiting, hoping something's going to come over that hill, and he never does. And so now it's dark, and I'm at the bottom of this canyon, mile and a half from the truck. And I have no headlight, I have no pack, no nothing, and I got to try to get out of here in the dark in an area I've never been to before. And so I'm like, well, that was not the best idea. It was actually quicker for me to go to the opposite side where I was trying to get to, rather than straight back up where I just came from to get to my dad. So I get on my phone, I'm like, come over here. I'm trying to drop him a pin to where to pick me up at. And gets out and gets back in the truck, and finally, and it's cold, it's freezing cold, and like I said, I didn't have my jacket, I just had my hoodie on I didn't take anything with me, and super rushed thing. So nothing happened, I didn't spook the deer, nothing like that, but I thought, man, I'm gonna be back here, and tomorrow morning I'm coming right back here in this spot, and I said I'm gonna be sitting right here on this peak, waiting on that buck. And so, sure enough, I had my dad drop me off in this spot, and I sent him back up to the top of the mountain to spot. And I hiked in there, get nice and settled on this little point, and sit there all morning, nothing. And for 2 hours I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I'm not seeing any deer. I don't know where they're at. So I told Dad, I said, I'm gonna hike out of here. We'll go somewhere else. I don't know where he's at. So I'm hiking out, and out there in Colorado, you have a different perspective. You can move 5 feet and see so much more stuff. You don't. It's crazy because you can't see all the rises and the dips and everything and where you're at. It'll look like flat ground, but it's not. And there might be a 100-foot deep ravine or a little drainage that you can't see. And so as I'm walking out, I would stop to turn around and look, I might walk 100 yards and turn around and look. And sure enough, I stop to turn around and look, and I spot that buck. And he's got 5 does with him, and then there's another little spike buck, and he's a mile and a half away, and I have no idea if he's on private or public because it's right on the edge, and I can't differentiate. Like I said, there's no fences. I can't differentiate where he's at based on from where I'm at. And so I tell Dad, I said, hey, he's up there. I got to go after him. And so I take off down the mountain into this canyon. And I get to a point. There's this little point in the fence. It's a big 90-degree turn, and where he's at, he's on the edge of this mountain, the mountainside that we were on the top of the day before, and it gets pretty dang steep. It's about come to find out, it was about 1,600-foot elevation and 700 yards gain, and so it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't straight down, but it wasn't. It was nothing that I wouldn't want to walk up it, and. So I thought, and I'm right on the edge of the line. I'm on the property line looking at it, and I'm spotting, and I find his does, and I'm like, I can't find him, and I'm thinking, I know that deer's there. I know that he's there. I just can't see him. He's got to be bedded down. So he was pushing one of the other does about 100 yards back from the group, but they were staying with the group, but he wouldn't let that doe come with the group. So I'm thinking he's got to be around there somewhere. So I decide. All right, I'm just gonna push in there and hope that when I stand him up that he's on the public land side. Mm-hmm. And so I hike in there. You know, I'm down and up these drainages, and sure enough, he jumps up 75 yards from me on the private side, and all I can do is sit there and watch him. And so I posted a video of him. I mean, I had great video of the deer running away. I had my spotter on him, and he's running away, and all I can do is video him. And sure enough, he runs right back to where I was at that morning on the public land, and there's nothing I can do about it because he's so far away. And I just video him, and I think I laid down there. I just laid down on the mountain, just like, I blew that. Why did I do that? Why did I not just be patient and I knew better. But I was so excited because I knew that the deer was big. And now I got video of him. And any deer hunter will tell you, a deer, if you're looking at a deer from the back, they look a heck of a lot bigger than they actually are. And you look at the video of that deer, and it looks like a giant. I mean, I'm like, holy crap, this is a big deer. And I just screwed this up for myself. So I end up hiking back out of there. I'm watching this deer from a mile away now in the timber, pushing these does around, and I can't get over there to him. I can't get there. Finally, I'm able to get back over there, get back to the truck, get over to the timber, and I get down in this timber, and I can't find him. I have no idea where he's at. There's no other hunters around, but I'm like, you know what? This is a bad idea. I shouldn't be in this timber because it's thick stuff, and I shouldn't be in this timber pushing this deer around. I need to back out of here and just come back at night. And so that's what I did. And go back to the hotel, eat some lunch, come back in there at night, sit there at night, and Dad's back up on the top of the mountain in the truck, and nowhere. The deer's nowhere to be found. I have no idea where he's at. So I'm like, all right, man, I'm gonna sit on this deer again the next day. So now we're going to Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning, sit back in the same exact spot, and waiting for this deer. Get this little buck that comes through. And nothing, and I'm not seeing any deer. And I can see this whole entire canyon from where I'm at. Then I get text message from my dad. He says, I think I see some deer over on the side of that mountain where I was just hiked my butt into the day before. And so I'm like, all right, well, I got to hike all the way up in there and check it out. I got to make sure. So I hike back into the spot again. And I get over there, and there's his group of deer, and he's not there. There was 7 deer that were in this group, 5 does, a little buck, and him. And all there is 6 deer. It's the same group. And I'm thinking, where is this deer at? I know he didn't get shot because I was there the whole time where he was at, and nobody was around. There was nobody shooting. And I'm thinking, man, I don't know where this deer's at. Don't know where he's at. And so I decided, that was Wednesday morning. I decided, okay, I'm gonna give him a little bit of time, and I'm not gonna hunt him. And no, that was Tuesday morning. Yeah, so I'm gonna leave this guy. I'm gonna let him go. I'm not gonna hunt him. So we go and do some other hunting around. Hooked up with my buddy Jaden from Utah was out there with us and hunted an afternoon morning with him. And so we were gonna go out so Thursday morning. We got till Friday's the last day of the hunt, and I had gotten on another deer. Didn't have an opportunity to shoot him, and but I'm just thinking about this deer, this big buck. I got all this video of him, all this video of this big buck, and So we make a plan to go up in this spot where Dad had shot his buck the first day, or the second day, Thursday morning. And we pull up, and there's already trucks parked there. And I'm like, well, crap, I don't know. I don't know what else we're going to do now. I thought, you know what? Let's go over that canyon and see if I can spot that buck again. So we pull up in there, and there's 3 of us looking. No deer, not finding him nowhere, nothing. And so we're pulling around the canyon, and we'd stop at a couple different glassing spots and not finding him. And we're on our way out of there. We're like, all right, he's gone. Nothing we could do. And so we're just about to turn on the road to get out. And I said, you know what, Dad's driving at the time. I said, let me check it. Let me take one more look out here. And I pull up some deer. And they're 2 miles out. So I get my buddy Jaden's big spotter. And sure enough, there he was. And he's way up. He's at the bottom of that mountain. He's back in that same spot. And he's pulling away on the private spot side. And I thought, tonight, I'm coming back after that deer. I said, I know where he's at. I'm just going to leave him there. And tonight, I'm getting back in there. I said, I'm going to pull off the side of that mountain. I'm going to drop right off the top. And I'm going to get right in there and find him. And at that time, when I spotted that deer, I decided that I was going to shoot that deer or no deer. I said, I got a day and a half left. I'm going to come back in here in the afternoon, in the evening. And if I get an opportunity, I get it. If I don't, I don't. I said, but I told Jaden, he goes, well, what if you don't shoot him? I said, that's fine. I'm either shooting that deer or I'm not shooting a deer at all. And so we ended up going to another spot, and we spotted this buck from the road. Jaden did, and we ended up putting a stalk on him. And Jaden was lucky enough to get a couple shots off on him and missed him like 3 or 4 times, unfortunately. But I was just there to watch. And I had my gun, but I was just there to watch. And so we go back to the hotel and get some dinner. And I said, let's go. We're going back up the top of that mountain. And I said, I'm going to go up there, and I'm going to drop right off the side of that mountain. And so it was pretty steep. Like I said, this is the same area where there's a real steep decline on this mountain. So we get up there, and I start sliding. I'm sliding on this. I'm literally on my butt, scooting, because it's real steep and there's snow up there. And I get set up on this spot, and I find the deer. He's bedded down. All of his does are laying there. And so I had him at, I think he was about 650 or so, but he was 100 yards on the private side. And I'm thinking, man, like, come on, get up. And this is an hour before dark, when the prime time is, when the deer is supposed to be moving. He never stood up. And I'm thinking, man, it would have worked so well. Like, why didn't you stand up? And so it gets dark, and it's freaking cold. And I climb back up out of there. My dad and Jaden are up top, and they're like, I didn't see nothing. I said, no, I found him. He's down there. I said, tomorrow morning, I'm going to be right back here in the morning, and that's where I'm going to find him. So next morning we get up in there, and I did the same exact thing. What I did is we had a side-by-side that we had taken out there with us. So it got kind of gnarly that night. We got some snow, and to get up to the top of the mountain we were at, it was not a great road to take. Sure. So, and Dad didn't want to take his truck up there. So we ended up dropping off the side-by-side at the bottom of the mountain. And he took his truck halfway up, and I took the side-by-side all the way up to the top of the mountain. And so we get up there. I get back in my spot. Got my spotter set up, and I posted a picture of my little setup I had going on. It was a nice little spot, a nice little cozy, like, ledge almost, if you will, right underneath this giant pine tree. But I'm sitting there, and I start picking out deer. On this whole canyon, I'm picking out deer, but he's not there. But I'm seeing these groups, and they're not the same deer. And now these deer had been together all week long in the same spot, and I'm thinking, they got to be here, and I just can't see them because where I was at was a little wooded area, some pine trees in there, and it was my view was obstructed a little bit. So I said, you know what, I need to move a little bit so I get a different perspective. And sure enough, so I start sliding around this mountain, like just sideways. I don't gain any elevation and I don't drop any elevation. And so I start sliding around. Sure enough, that deer was right underneath of me, bedded, but he was straight down, and I couldn't see him where I was at. So I pull up my rangefinder, and he's at like 700 yards, and he's on the public land. And I'm like, I can't make a 700-yard shot. I had never shot it before. Mm-hmm. And the range around here only goes out to 565, I believe. And so I didn't even have MOA. I had MOA for 600 yards on my gun only because last year in Colorado, I shot my deer at 600 yards, and I knew what it was shooting at. I'd never shot over that yardage. So I thought, I need to gain some close some distance here. So I start sliding down this mountain, and it's steep, and I'm trying to sneak up on these deer because I don't want to spook them or anything like that. But I got to get down this mountain and get to a spot where I can shoot. So I get down and I get to 600. I think, okay, that's where I need to be at. I'm out of sight. This deer's still bedded down, and so now I got to get a comfortable shot on this deer. And now, mind you, it's straight down. I mean, I'm looking like this, like to get set up on this deer. I got to
it's like 60 degrees.
Oh yeah, it's
It's
bad.
like 60 degrees. It's like
I got a bipod on my rifle.
It might as well just start rolling.
Yeah, I got a bipod on my rifle. It goes to up to 13 inches, and I can't. That's not even enough for me to get now. And I have it's real cold out, so I have my down pants on, which are not good in the snow. If you put down pants on, you might as well
run the sled down the hill.
Seriously. And so I'm in these down pants. So I put my rifle down and I'm trying to lay sideways in the hill and to shoot at him like this, but the bottom half of me keeps wanting to slide down the hill. And I can't get comfortable. I can't get comfortable on this deer. And I finally get like this little pine tree I was able to like lay on and sort of stop myself from sliding down the hill. I get my spotter set up and I was able to video the shot. And I shoot one time and the deer flies up out of his bed. And I have no idea if it was everything I could do to even hold that spot. So I wasn't able to track my shot. And all I see is the deer. He just jumps up out of his bed and runs like 20 yards and stands there. And I'm thinking, crap, I have no idea where I hit. Nothing. I just know that I missed. So I range him again. He's at like 650, 660. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to have to hold high now. And so I shoot again. Doesn't even move. Deer just stands there. He's standing broadside. So then I'm like, all right, now I need to get more comfortable. So then I'm looking at the deer, and he starts making another bed. He has no idea what's happening. Lucky for me, I think, the does didn't spook, or he would have spooked. And so the does are still stay there. And it actually takes me, you can rag on me on this a little bit. I shot 6 times at that deer before I killed him. And so the sixth shot, he ended up being at 680. And I ended up having to, I put my pack underneath of my calves, and I had to lay like this, straight down with my bipod out and laying down like this to make the shot that actually ended up killing him. And now where I'm at, I have these slots where I can see, and because there's pine trees underneath there. So I shoot my shot, and he takes off flying out of view. I can't see him. And so I slide down the mountain a little bit further so I can open up my view a little bit to see the rest of the canyon, thinking, no, I need to see where he's at and see where he's going, and I don't see him. And I'm like, where the heck is this deer at? And I'm looking, waiting on him to pop up out of a drainage or something. And now I spot his group of deer. I see all 5 of his does and that little buck. And I'm watching them, and they're all just standing there looking back like this. And I'm counting them. I keep counting them because I know there's 7 deer. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, 6. What are they looking at? What is he still over there? So I'm scanning with my binoculars, and the next thing I realize, there's this red skid mark in the snow. And I'm like, those are horns. Those are horns sticking out of that sagebrush. He's laying there dead. And now I'm screaming and hollering. I fall backwards on the mountain, and I'm all by myself, and I'm just like, I can't believe that worked.
Yep.
6 days. 6 days I had been after that deer, and I screwed it up so many times, or 2 different times. I'm thinking, all week long I kept telling myself, if I could shoot this deer, this is a nice buck. This is a really nice buck. And I never had him scored. But I'm thinking he's close to 160. I mean, guys out west, that's probably not a giant deer, but to me, that's a giant mule deer for an over the counter, or not over the counter, but for a public land deer. He's a nice deer. He's super tall. So I call my dad. I'm like, I got him. He goes, or actually, I sent him the picture in the spotting scope of the deer laying dead. I think I sent the same one to you, Jordan, laying dead in the sagebrush. And he goes, "That's not a very good picture. I can't see him." And I said, "That's because he's dead, laying in the sagebrush." So he says, "Well, what are you gonna do?" I tell him where he's at, and he's like, "Well, how are you gonna get to us?" I said, "I'm going straight down. I'm not going back up what I've already went down." I said, "I'm just gonna go straight down at this deer." And it took my dad the same amount of time to travel 1.5 miles as it took me to travel that 670 yards.
Man.
So that's how steep it was to go straight down there, and we ended up getting down there, and it was.
He says he fell back. He says he fell back in the hill. Like what he basically just did was just lean back in his chair. Like that's how steep it was.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, seriously, and I mean it was crazy.
If people get a chance, they need to go check out the footage and all the pictures that you have on your social media account. Because like he has a picture and I can't stand it. Like I need everything to be level. It looks like he's doing the high school girl. Let's rotate the camera.
Yeah.
Like tilt my earth, and he's like, "No, dude, this is like that's straight view from where I'm."
Yeah, it's really hard to get perspective. Like and when you take your pictures to get a perspective. So I tried to video like a side view, like looking across the hill, so where you can see the hill is like this, and the trees are growing like this. And so that was the best way you could get it, because obviously the trees are going to go straight up and down.
Yeah,
they're not going to grow straight out of the mountain. So yeah, and I was trying to video everything like. You guys wouldn't believe like what I'm on, and it was steep. So I was so happy with that deer, man. I got down there, and he was, like I said, his head was buried. His head was buried in a sagebrush, and I didn't even walk up to him. Me and my dad met in the same spot where he was at, so I didn't even touch him. I told Dad, I said, I want you to video me pulling him up out, and Dad's not great with the footage, so he didn't do. He's like, oh, I think it's video, but it's not, whatever. But he ended up getting a little bit of footage of him, and we got some really good pictures of him. And I just, like I said, I was super happy with that deer. I can't wait to get him back. I was hoping to have him back for the podcast today, but he's in a beetle tank right now, so it's taking a little bit longer than I was wanting it to. But he'll look awesome. Great on the wall, and
yeah. One heck of a hunt, man, for sure.
I was so happy for it. Like I said, I shot him on the last day, and it's when you're hunting and especially on a hunt like that where you only have 7 days to hunt, you want so badly to be successful, but at the same time, like if we traveled 1,600 miles out there, 23-hour drive there and back, like do I want to hunt to end on the first day? Like, you don't want to drive out there and shoot the first thing you see on the side of the mountain, then just turn around and drive right back. Like, that's nice. You're going to be successful. But at the same time, I probably would have kicked myself, if I had a tag in my pocket driving back home. But I couldn't have been a more perfect hunt for us to go out there with my dad. He wasn't able to be there when I shot my deer, but he was there for everything else. He endured the straight up pack out for all that movement. Now we didn't pack him out up that mountain. We went the long way to get out, which was still uphill. It was still uphill, and but it's just funny. He comes down in there, and I said, "Dad, did you bring some water?" No. I'm like, why didn't you bring water? He goes, well, I didn't want to carry it. I said, well, you wouldn't have had to carry it out. I promise you that, because I only had 1/2 of a bottle of water in my pack. So yeah, it was a heavy pack. I was a lot heavier in my pack out in Colorado last year, because that was a bigger deer, bigger body on him, and I had all of my cold weather gear and my rifle and my tripod and my spotter, and then I took both back quarters in the head, and I think I might have took the back straps too, and Dad took the 2 front because I didn't want to give him the heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a heavy pack. It was a heavy pack to get out of there. I'm glad it wasn't longer than it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. I posted a ton of videos on Facebook and Instagram, and Jordan made that sweet little reel. He had a soundtrack to it and everything. It was pretty cool.
No, yeah, it was fun. That was fun. I was so excited when you sent me all those pictures too, man, because like I said, it's not every day that someone from Central Ohio that I know has so much experience. We talked to a lot of guests on the podcast that hunt out there, the Jordan Budds, the Sam Davises of the world, but to hear a successful story from someone that lives 30 minutes away and hunts the same type of animals that we hunt, it makes it so much more relatable to us. Just your experience overall. And so that's why we wanted to have you on anyway, man. It's just such a cool story, and especially one that you can share with your father. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I tell everybody, I'm like you said, it makes it more relatable. It's a little bit more realistic, like it's it's doable. Anybody could do it. Anybody could go out there and do that hunt. A lot of people, I always try to get people to come out with me. Not that I always try to, but I'm always tell people, come out, come out and hunt, come out and hunt.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not as expensive as you think it is. I mean, it's expensive, but save up a little bit of money and get a few of the good pieces of gear, and like, you can do it. It's not you can go out there for less than $2,000 and hunt public land. And
and I'm glad you said that too, because we say it's expensive, right? When you think about that, you think it's expensive. You see that $700 for a tag for elk, or you see that, right now, $500-$600 in gas to get out there, right?
Right.
But is it that much more expensive than putting $3,000 into your food plot, or
Right.
buying, a couple wagonfuls of corn or whatever for your, like, when you compare it all together, it's really not that much more expensive than just trying to hunt around here. How much money have I spent just to hunt 700 yards away from my house?
Right.
$1,000. Yeah, it's like, so take that money and actually make a trip, and you got a whole new experience for relatively not that much more money.
Well, see, I had always been intimidated by going out west and hunting, because I always thought that you had to have a guide, and you had to be $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 invested in something to go out there and be successful, which is not the case.
Yep.
And obviously, if you spend $5,000, you're gonna have a lot better odds, and you're probably gonna see a lot more. But I created memories with my dad for if we would never done that, if we would never just said, hey, we're gonna go do it, we're gonna go do it.
Yep.
Save $100 a paycheck, and then next thing you know, you got enough money to go out there and do it. I mean, all
for the same cost of going to Disney World.
Right, exactly. Probably cheaper.
Yeah,
Probably cheaper.
Another thing to think about too, like what Ben and I, we were kind of dabbling with it. I kind of figured it wasn't going to happen, but this is Colorado. Maybe you're not physically fit to go and hike a 60-degree vertical climb or whatever. There's Kansas, there's Nebraska, there's South Dakota. There's other Western state mule deer style hunts that you can do that aren't going to be nearly as terrain challenging, if you will.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's not. Now everything out in Colorado is not a big giant vertical like that. There's plenty of easy walking areas that you can get away from the truck, and you can hunt. And you can do great things out there without killing yourself. Now, obviously,
well, half the state is flat too.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people, you think as soon as you get into that Colorado, you're automatically thinking Denver or Pikes Peak. There's hours worth of driving in the first half of Colorado that's similar to Kansas or Nebraska.
Right. Yeah, it's exactly like Kansas. Yeah, until you get to Denver, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so I shot that. I killed that buck, and I had a little bit of spotting scope footage and me talking. I'm pretty sure you can hear the excitement in my voice on that. And I had said to myself when I was out in Colorado, if I could shoot this deer, like that's gonna be. I want to set my sights on shooting a bull. So I've done that same hunt for the last 3 years out there, and I love it. It's an awesome hunt. I'm super confident to go out there and hunt in the area and everything like that. But now I'm like, I really want to shoot a bull. I really want to shoot a bull. So I'm looking about going somewhere else. My buddy out in Utah is really trying to get me to come to Utah, and I'm thinking I might try to do a September archery hunt in Utah with him. He's really pushing for me to get out there.
That's Jaden.
Yeah,
right?
Jaden. Yep.
He's the one you went with on the last hunt.
Yeah, I've hunted in Colorado with him for the past 3 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, super cool dude. Shout out to Jaden out in Utah.
And that was an internet buddy too, right?
Yeah, man. I met him on Facebook. We bullshitted back and forth, and I had some plans to go out in Colorado, and they weren't falling together. And I joked around and said, you're going to be out there at the same time. I might just come out and crash your party. And he's like, come on out. And I did. I met him on the side of the road, and I was like, hey, what's up, man? And he's like, what's up? And we're lifelong buddies now, man. We talk
cool.
every day, and he's a super cool dude, man. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy. Like I said, when I went out there last year, for the past 2 years to Colorado, I didn't have anybody that went with me. The first year I went to Colorado, I drove out by myself and met Jaden. The second year, I flew to Jaden's house, and then we drove in. But man, you can get on Facebook pages, and I guess I don't want to be like the guy to encourage that, Craigslist killers or whatnot, but you can get on Facebook and be like,
Sounds like the start of a novel.
yeah, but I mean, there's a few different guys that I know that I've talked to here in Ohio that I've never met before, but just guys that you hit up and you have the same relatable, like the same hobbies and things like that, and they might not have buddies that are able to spend a couple grand and go out west and hunt, but they really want to do it, and you hook up with them and say, hey, we'll split gas and we'll do this and do that, and you might end up making a lifelong friend like I have, and I got guys all over the place that I've talked to that hunt out west, friends that are of Jaden's that I've talked to now, and different guys out in different states, and they're all just like, come on out. People are inviting out there, and it's different for them out there because you're hunting public land. Whereas here, it's hard for me to invite any of them guys out here because I don't have land of my own that I hunt.
Yeah.
It's, you got permission from, the farmer down the street or your grandma's friend or whatever.
Sure.
So it's not the same, but them, they're hunting the same public land that you'd be hunting. And so it makes it a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, reach out to guys and,
Well, it helps too when Jaden's from Utah and you're hunting Colorado because you're both on equal ground.
Right.
He may live out there and know the culture and know the experience and know what he's getting himself into because he's in that environment, if you will.
Yep.
As opposed to someone on the East Coast, but you guys are, squared off.
Right.
And it's not.
Oh yeah.
Especially with the tag that you're applying for.
Yeah, and on top of that too, I mean, I learned so much hunting with him out there too. Being an Eastern hunter is not the same as being a Western hunter, and I learned a ton from hunting with him. Just where to look, things to do, and what they're gonna, things to look for, and things like that, and just learned a ton from him. So, yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah, super thankful to have him as a buddy out there. So, I really want to get out there to Utah with him and maybe hunt this season. It have to be a short trip for me because I'm pretty busy in September normally.
Yeah.
But I think we might do it. I think I might do it, and then I'll probably make the same Colorado trip again if I can do it that way. And then it'd be really sweet to be able to shoot.
You should just go to Wyoming with us.
I listen. I got points in Wyoming. I will go. You
I
joke, but I will go.
didn't get drawn last year. I didn't get drawn last year. Well, I'm here for you, man. Last year I thought was going to be the year, and then I ended up getting drawn. But I'll have, I want to say 4 mule deer points and probably equal or a little bit more on antelope, maybe 4 or 5.
Yep.
But if you can find a unit where you can do both.
Yeah. I'm sitting at 4 points in Wyoming for deer and elk. I think I let my antelope points go. I got a buddy that lives out there. He lived here in West Virginia and he moved out there, and he was just like, you don't need points. Come out here and shoot an antelope. So, but we went out there, or when I drove through there a few years ago, they're freaking everywhere. Those antelope are just on the side of the road like groundhogs. It's crazy.
I told Ben I wouldn't use my bow, but he's the more and more I start to talk to people, the more and more I'm like,
yeah,
6.5 wouldn't be too bad either, I guess.
Yeah. You just get you one of those little antelope butt decoys. You can hide behind it with your
There you
Matthews.
There you go.
Get it done.
Me and Christy are just like the same person, man. Hiding and shooting, right?
Yep, pretty much.
Well, Sam Davis makes it seem so simple when we talk to him, and but here he is. He's probably the best spot and stock archer out there. So
yeah, I mean, it'd be crazy. I can't imagine even mule deer hunting with archery. I think would be
yeah,
because you're not talking about tree stands. You're talking about spot and stock. You got to sneak up on them, and it's just, to me, it seems like it would be so hard to do. I mean, I know guys do it with elk all the time, but it seems like mule deer would be a heck of a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's the bedding game, right? Yep. It's the whole try and get him in the bed. You would have made a play on him similar to what you've done, but you would have had to make a much more aggressive play on him bedded down. Then you got the wind and you got does looking at you and stuff. So it's definitely a lot harder of a challenge, but I think it can be done, especially for guys who are out east. But Sam Davis told us on a podcast that we had with him one time is if you can spot and stalk a white-tailed doe, you can kill anything on this continent. And
Yeah.
I can't say I've done it, but I can totally see where
Yeah.
that would make total sense.
I've done that before. I've spot and stalk. I was looking for a buck one time with my buddy, and I had my bow with me, and I ended up spotting a doe and ended up shooting her. So it's hard to do, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess whitetails are a lot more skittish than
yeah,
mule deer are. 100% more times. And I don't know though. But those bucks, the big bucks are smart. They're smart. They're big for a reason.
Yep.
Well, Alan, man, we'll let you get going on that. I really do appreciate you coming in and warming my seat for me. I'm starting to feel a little better. Hopefully, I can be in there next week. But thanks for coming in on short notice and
Yeah, for
sharing that
sure.
story with us. I know it was something that you wanted to talk about for a while now. So
Yeah, I love telling stories. I love telling them.
there you go. That's a podcast. Story time with Samsal right there for you, Ben.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome, Alan. Man. Hey, man. Again, thank you so much for coming on. And then, like anyone still listening, definitely head over to his social media accounts. We'll have all those listed below, and check out those videos and photos that he's got from that hunt and some really special stuff that he made there with his dad. So
Yep. Check it out.
awesome, man. Thanks, guys.
Yep, thanks.
All right, everyone, that is all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed that conversation with Alan. It was so fun to talk to him and hear about the trip to Colorado with his dad. I'm sure that's a memory that they'll always have together. As always, we appreciate you guys listening. And until next time, enjoy the pursuit.